Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of All the Mods 9 to the Skies. And last time we were making our way through the Project E quests and we hit a bit of a stumbling block when we got to the red matter because we need some of this stuff, the plutonium pellet. I probably won't get that done today, but I do want to get the fissile fuel done. And this is the fuel that goes into the fission reactor, which produces the nuclear waste, and then we can turn that into either plutonium or polonium, and these can be turned into the pellets. So we are a little way off that yet, but if we look at the fissile fuel, this on its own is a bit of a process. So if we step this back from the end result, which is the fissile fuel, we need to create uranium hexafluoride and put that into an isotopic centrifuge. And to get that, we need to mix hydrofluoric acid and uranium oxide. The uranium oxide is the easy one because we just need to take yellow cake uranium in a chemical oxidizer, and we get that from the uranium ingots in an enrichment chamber, and we already have an absolute ton of these from the sieving. So stepping back into here again, we need to do the hydrofluoric acid, and this is done with sulfuric acid and fluorite in a chemical dissolution chamber. And to make sulfuric acid, we need water vapor, which is the easy one, and sulfur trioxide. Sulfur trioxide is oxygen and sulfur dioxide. So oxygen is the easy one, we can just get that from water. And then sulfur dioxide, this is the one that tends to be the bottleneck. So we need to put sulfur dust into a chemical oxidizer, and we get sulfur dust, and we can do this a few different ways actually, but we're going to do this in a pulverizer. So we just take the sulfur, which again we've got tons of from sieving, and then we'll put the sulfur dust into a chemical oxidizer to get the sulfur dioxide. And this is the bit that I need an absolute ton of. And I have set up a new area to do all that stuff, but before we have a look at that, let's have a look at some of the other stuff that I was doing just towards the end of the last episode. So I was starting to work towards the start, and I decided to concentrate on the pulsating black hole first, because this one is the most straightforward of the individual components. It's just you need a ton of the blocks. So I've already got the cobblestone sorted. I need a 6 times compress for that. The dirt is well on its way, and I was doing a really silly setup for the oak last time, but what I've done since then is put these into a compacting drawer, and I now have 6 of the 4 times. So I just need to get up to 9 of those, and I can craft that into the 5 times. So that one's nearly there. I've also set up the obsidian as well, which I said I was going to do in the blast chiller last time. So I've got that set up, and those are going into compacting drawers as well, and we're already up to 6 of the 3 times. So I need to get 1 of the 5 times for this, so this is going to take a while. But I've got all of these porcelain crucibles cooking up the lava, and I've got all of these on dark matter blocks, which we got last time. So yeah, these are going at 100 times rate, so I could definitely do at least another one of these, probably a few more to speed this up, but I'll just leave this doing its thing for now. We can get there eventually. And then this setup as well, I've got more than enough cobble now, so I'm going to change this out and put gravel and sand in here, so I can hammer this down to get gravel and sand, and I can do the same thing and get that up to the 5 times. And I did have a few comments saying that I should use mystical agriculture to do all of this, and yeah, that would be the smart thing to do, but I never said I was smart, did I? Right, so let's have a look at this new area I've set up. So right down here, through all my sieving setup, I've got this room around here. Now the walls aren't in yet, but I have been digging all of this stuff back a little bit so I can have this nice and tidy. And I've just got this big room with a walkway all the way around, and this is my main ME transport cable, which all the P2P tunnels go down. Rather than move this, I've just made it a little bit of a feature in the middle of the room. I don't know what I'm going to do here. I might put some lights around this, or just even leave it open. But then I've also got a P2P tunnel on here, and that goes down the middle of here. So I've got 32 channels to play with. And yeah, I haven't explained what I'm doing yet, but all of this stuff that I'm doing for the fissile fuel, I'm actually going to do it through AE2. Now, I was originally going to use the quantum entangler portet from Mechanism, and that is quite a standard way of doing it. You can have loads of different channels for each of the little subcrafts that you need to do, and I actually set all that up in creative, so I knew exactly what I was doing, just refreshing my memory. But then I just had this crazy idea when I logged in today that I should do it all with AE2, so that's what I'm going to do. Now, I'm not saying it's a good idea. It may be a completely terrible idea because I haven't properly tested it yet. So yeah, let's try the first one and see how it works. Right, so what I've got on me is a new drive, and I think I'm going to put this one down here, and I'm going to put the chemical cells in here so we can put all of the gases into there rather than sending around with quantum entangle porters. And that means we can build up a bit of a backlog with this stuff, so we have a bit of surplus, which is always helpful. So how am I going to start this? Right, let's do something down here. Now, I haven't decided yet if I'm going to have this on a sub-network as well, so if I had a separate terminal down here, I could just see the stuff that it's creating. And you know what, now I've said it, I think that is actually a good idea. So I'm just going to try and figure this sub-network out, see how I'm going to have this laid out, and we'll have a look and set up the first little microservice for this together. Okay, so I think I know what I'm doing now. So we have a subnetwork. I decided to go that way, and I think it is going to be worthwhile doing. So down here, actually, no, let's start up here. So this is a P2P from my main network. I then have a quartz fiber here connecting it to this other subnetwork. So this is now completely separate. You'll notice down there, we do have a separate controller for this. Without a controller, this would be able to handle 8 channels on its own. But I've put a controller in down here and connected that dense cable to the top of it. And then I've also got 2 dense cables out of these sides as well. So this subnetwork is going to be able to handle quite a lot of channels, and we are going to have quite a lot of things going on. I think what I've done here is completely overkill, but that's alright. And then so I can see everything that's in this network on my main network. I also have a interface coming from here, and then a storage bus from a main network looking at that. But I also have a drive down here and a crafting terminal that is just looking at this network. So nothing in it at the minute, but we do have 3 of the chemical storage cells. Now I did craft up a few of the housing, so I can do some more of those. So I've got the cell housing, so I don't know how many of these I've got, but let's just grab a few. If I can fill this up, that'd be good. I don't think I'm going to need that many, but you never know. So let's do that. There we go. Right, so we now have 10 64k chemical storage cells. So that should be plenty for everything I want to do. Right, so what are we actually doing? As we saw when we looked through the process for the fissile fuel, there's a lot of little steps to it, and now it can be quite overwhelming if you want to do it all in one big thing. So just think of it as lots of little steps, because that's exactly what it is, and set each one up on its own, have it stored somewhere, and then you can use that in another step and so on. So we're going to do the really easy one now, and we're just going to set up the water vapor. We're going to be using a lot of import buses, so I may as well craft up a few of these, and same thing for the export buses as well. So I'll just have one of those and one of those. I also need a rotary decondensator for this, so that's going to need a chemical tank, and I'm going to get a few of these because these are going to come in handy for when we do the importing. This is like the buffer that we're going to use. So let's craft up one of these. I'm also going to need a sink. Let's get some pipes as well. I'm going to craft up a few of these because these are going to definitely want things moving around really quickly, and I'll get a wrench as well. Right, so to do this, I'm just going to break it into here. Have a cable run out, and I will tidy this up as well. Let's get the setup going on its own first, and then we can worry about importing and exporting. These might not be in an ideal spot, so I may have to move these, but let's not worry about that for now. So let's do that. I'm then going to take a pipe from there, set that to extract, and then in the rotary condensator, I'll put that down. And I'm also going to need to power that, so let's get an indicator. I need to craft some more of those. Stick that on there. And if we toggle the operation, that is turning water into water vapor, and that is the first step towards fissile fuel done. So we just need to import this into those cells over there, and that's this bit done. So yeah, probably should have done this the other way around. In fact, let's do that. Okay, so we'll have that going that way around, and then what we're going to do, we're going to put an empty tank, chemical tank at the back. We're then going to, on here, output gases to the back, eject on. So now we should get water vapor into there. If we then take our import bus and put that onto there, okay, so that is now importing into there. Yeah, that's doing its thing. So all we need to do now really is speed up this machine, and that'll be the first thing ticked off. Okay, so that is that fully upgraded. That has filled up, and that means that this is now not importing fast enough. So we just need to get that going as well. So grab some acceleration cards for those, and if we stick those into there, that should now start going down very quickly. And if we come over here, we now have 140 buckets of water vapor. So that is going very well. So that is the first step done. So that is basically it. We just need to work through the whole list of everything in the fissile fuel and get all that imported into here. And now there are many steps along the way, and I will go through them, but this is basically what we're doing for each one. Getting this into the system, and then we can just export this water vapor where we need it, and then the other things that we import, we can export those somewhere else. So it's quite a complicated setup, but I think this should work quite well. So I'm quite excited to get all this done. So let me get a little bit further on, and we can have a look where we are. Right, so I've spent a little bit of time adding a few things, and I think we're actually getting somewhere now. I think this plan is going to work. So I've moved this around a little bit so it's a bit neater. So this is the first one we did with the rotary condensator producing the water vapor from the sink. And then I've added one next to it, almost identical. We've got a sink going into electrolytic separator, and that is just getting us oxygen, and then we're dumping hydrogen because we don't need that. So that is getting imported as well. And then the next one, a little bit more complicated because it's not coming from the sink, but what we've got here is the uranium that we're getting from sieving going into an enriching factory, and that is producing yellow cake uranium. And then from there, we're sending that into a chemical oxidizer, and that is producing uranium oxide. So all three of these are getting imported into here. But before we have a look at that, I've added another little room around here. Well, this is going to be a room eventually, but I'm just getting everything in first, and then we can make it look pretty. So from here, we also have a frame drawer with the sulfur in, and we're getting this from sieving as well, and this is exported from the main system here. And then from that, I'm using modular routers to send it into here. Now, it may seem a bit overkill using modular routers, but the problem is this and the other one we've got over there is going to be the bottleneck. I've tested this out in creative, and this is just never fast enough. So we are going to have an absolute ton of pulverizers, just a complete wall of them here, and to get all the pipes in there and to be able to power them, it's going to be a real pain. So using modular routers and not having to have another connection is going to be very helpful. So we're just sending the sulfur into here, and that is producing sulfur dust, and then this one is pulling sulfur dust out, and that is getting imported over there. Now, it's not really necessary. I could probably just send it over here. But once we have a ton of pulverizers, there may be a backlog if we're lucky. So what I've done is swap out one of these chemical cells for a storage cell. Because what I was doing originally was importing the yellow cake uranium as well. But I've exported all of that now into there, and that's why this is completely backed up. So the sulfur dust comes into here, and then it gets exported into this drawer here. And this was about 1300, so this is already not keeping up with this. But similar setup over here, we have a modular router taking the items out of here and putting it into here, because we are going to have more than one of these as well. And then we have a pressurized tube taking the sulfur dioxide into this tank, and then that is imported over here as well. So as far as like the base gases go, we're getting there: 22,000 water vapor, 8,000 oxygen, 1,300 uranium oxide, and then as I've just done the sulfur dioxide, I've only got 121 of those. So next steps for this, we need to take the sulfur dioxide and the oxygen which we've already got in there and export both of those into a chemical infuser, and that'll give us the sulfur trioxide. We can take that with the water vapor and export that into a chemical infuser again to give us sulfuric acid, and then we can take the sulfuric acid, put that into a chemical dissolution chamber with the fluorite, which we have tons of again from sieving, and we can turn that into hydrofluoric acid, and then we're nearly there. So we've already done the uranium oxide, well on the way to doing this, and we turn that into uranium hexafluoride, and then we can put that into an isotopic centrifuge and get the final result of the fissile fuel. So a couple more steps there, but I think one of the other things I want to do, we can take a break from this room for a little bit, and I want to get this upgraded. So I am going to have tons of these, but I also want to be able to max out the upgrades I've got in here as well. So the integral components can be upgraded to the next level of Dragon Steel, which I have already done, so I can get the recipe for this one done. But might as well not stop there, because I think we can get everything done in here. Or shulker shells, that might be an issue. I don't have shulker shells yet. Or do I? Do I have shulker shells? I can't remember now. I have a few. I may need to get a setup going so I can get a few more shulker shells, but for now, if we at least do the Dragon Steel one, that is going to be a huge help. And it's the same for the flux linkage amplifiers as well. This is the base level one, but we can upgrade this into soul infused, and from there that goes into enderium, shellite, and then the final twinite. Now, this is just quartz dust, twinite gear. Where's that come from? Right, so that's apatite, amethyst, and enderium. So we can do all of that. So we may be able to do these as well. So I'm going to get these patterns set up now, upgrade this as much as I can, and then we'll get this wall of pulverizers in and start mass producing this stuff. Right, so I've got all those patterns in, and I now have the top integral components. So I'm just working on the flux linkage amplifiers, and I do have all the recipes for them. And the one I want to go for is this, because even though it's not the top one, this is technically the top one, but it doesn't increase the speed of them as much. It uses less power to do 110%, but this one does 120%. So this is the one I want to go for. But even if I just try and craft one, and I need 3 of these per machine, yeah, I don't have enough. So I need to do the bronze as well. I need to get that sorted. But the main thing is the shulker shells. So what I have on me is a model framework. So I'm going to go to the end now and get a data model for a shulker, and then we can get that in the deep learner and get a few of them. And then I think what I'm going to do is swap out the one I've got for the ender dragon, because I just don't need all the dragon's breath that I've got from there. It's just ridiculous. So yeah, I think I'm going to leave that. Oh no, I'm doing dragon eggs now, aren't I? But even then, not necessary. Anyway, let's get to the end and see if we can do this. Right, hopefully I've left some shulkers around here. There we go, there's one. Okay, so let's have you. Put that in there. Oh, have I already got one? I've already got one in there. When did I do that? And it's actually already upgraded. Well, I completely forgot I'd done that. Never mind. Right, let's go back home. And if it's that one, isn't it? Advanced one. Take the dragon out of there. Put that one into there. And that's at 22%. So it's going to be a little bit of time before we can get anything decent out of it. But I should probably check I actually get shulker shells out of this as well. Yeah. Okay, 8 for each one. So that's pretty good. Right, so with this one, it'll do the end predictions. But it won't know to take the shulker prediction. So I'm going to need to change this modular router once that comes in. So while we're waiting for that to do that, I suppose we can test out this top integral component and see if it makes much of a difference. If it does, I'll be crafting an absolute ton of these with a load of pulverizers. Okay, so let's take you out there. Does this make much of a difference? Alright, that's torn up. Oh, look how fast that is. That's ridiculous. Right, hopefully this will go faster than this is using it now. So yeah, it's staying about the same. Yeah, it's going up very slowly, but it is going up. So that is good. So once we get the upgraded flux linkage amplifiers in, this should be enough to keep up with one of those. Let's go see if we can get some shulker shells and get this sorted. No, we're not doing it yet. Alright, I suppose while that's doing that then, I'll get the pulverizers in and then we can come back and see what these flux linkage amplifiers do. And there it is, we now have a wall of pulverizers and these aren't upgraded yet, but there's 30 of these things, so they are churning through this sulfur dust and it's already filled up this over here. Probably should put an upgrade on that. But looking in here, we have over 5,000 of them and these are going up. They're definitely keeping up this one chemical oxidizer, which does make me happy having all these, but I need to get all these upgraded, and to do that I have crafted 30 of the melodic integral components and this should make an absolutely huge difference. So I'm going to put these into all of these. I don't have the upgraded flux linkage amplifiers yet because I don't have enough shulker shells yet, although that is going quite well. 750 there, so that's not too bad. So for 30 pulverizers I need 90 of these things and that means I need another 1400 shulker shells. So I suppose I could do one of each. Let's try that. Let's just do 30 and I actually have enough to do all that. So what's that going to use? 720 shulker shells. So alright, we might as well get that going. That's probably going to take a while to craft because it needs to do a few things in pulverizers and stuff. So yeah, that's a bit of a crazy thing. So let's leave that alone. And while that's doing that, I can start putting these into here and this will go absolutely crazy. So just having a look around here. Bit dark this, isn't it? Should probably light this up. That's better. Right, so I've got all these modular routers in now and they are all completely separate. So they're in groups of 8. So 3 of them doing 8 and the last one's doing 6. So the first ones are just taking the items out of this frame drawer and pushing them into all of these. And that's those 4 doing that. And the second lot are taking the sulfur dust out and they're sending them into this frame drawer as a buffer. And then I've moved the import bus onto the back of here. So it'll take things out of there and into there. And then from there, they're going into this drawer here. So I've also noticed as well that I haven't spaced this out right. So there's a gap of 5 here and only 4 here. So I'm glad I noticed that before I got a full wall of these in. But yeah, obviously I can't leave that like that. I'm going to have to move that back. But I think for now, as we've got a bit of the sulfur dioxide anyway, I think I'm just going to set up the next step, which is the chemical infuser. So I'll get all that sorted in a minute. But first, let's get all of this going. Right, so I've got all those in now, and that's how quickly the sulfur is going up. So hopefully this should be somewhere near as much as we need. But once we get the flux linkage amplifiers in as well, that should help. But as we've got over 1,000 buckets of the sulfur dioxide, we may as well get the next step set up. So I don't know if I've got enough room. Yeah, I think I do, die. So for this, I'm going to need to move it along by one because I need to have... Or do I? No, I can just do it like that guy. What I need to do for this is have 2 exporters. So one's going to pass in the oxygen and the other one the sulfur dioxide. And then that'll give us the sulfur trioxide. And I'm hoping I can send that out the back again. So how many channels? Right, I'm using 5 on this already, which is a bit of a pain. So I'll tell you what, I'm going to go around the other side because then I can have another... I'll split this cable and then have another 8 channels over here. So let's do it over here somewhere. Put that there. We'll put a tank at the back like that. And then hopefully I can do the output to the back. But on gases, obviously. Turn all the others off. Now this isn't going to look great initially. Put down there. and that one there. And then we can have the import bus just on there like that. Right, now for these, we're going to need to tell it what to export. So that is a little bit more difficult. So what we can do, because we need oxygen and the sulfur dioxide, don't we? So let's come over here. And what I'm going to do is break this tank, but I'm going to need some in it. So we'll take out the acceleration cards, let this build up a little bit of a buffer. Right, so I've got that with a bit of sulfur dioxide in it. Now, if we come over here, and we right click with that in there, that will export sulfur dioxide into here. So all I need to do is grab my red cables, put that on there. Now that should start filling that up with sulfur dioxide, but it's not. So gases want input 2 on there. Right, so this filter is set right, but I made a bit of a mistake when I was doing the side config, and I had this set to input 1 for a brief second, but that meant the sulfur dioxide went into this side. So I had to use one of these things called a gauge dropper, and that'll just take out anything that's in an inventory. So as you can see, the oxygen is in there. The sulfur dioxide is coming in slowly, and that's because we've run out. So we did have a bit, but it's not keeping up. So that means I need to get the sulfur dust processing faster. I have stacked another 5 of those here, and I am going to need a lot more than this, but as we've just discovered, I need to move this back 1 block, and I can't really be bothered to do that at the minute. So I think what I'm going to do first is get using this and try and get right through to the end so we can get the fissile fuel, and then I'll come back and sort this out in a minute. Right, so I've got all this set up here now, so I have enough channels. So I've got 8 coming off here, and then that dense cable comes along under here, and then I'm pulling another 8 channels off there as well. So I'm going to use another one off here to do another one of these. So let's have another chemical infuser down, and then I want another export bus. And what we're doing here is making the sulfuric acid, so we need to export water vapor and the sulfur trioxide. Okay, so let's put the export bus there, and if I just slow this down and grab some of that sulfur trioxide, I can put that. Actually, no, before we do that, let's get the side config how we want it first. So this is actually right this time. So one left is input 1, right is input 2, and then the output is going to go to the back like that, and then we can turn the front one off. Okay, that's all right. So then let's grab another export bus, put that one there. Right, so now I can put a cable anchor there, and then we can run that way, and then we'll have the import bus on the back of that one, and then we can run that like that, and then we'll have another cable anchor there, and then we can run that to this, or one shot. Okay, so we can put that one there, and what was it? We needed water vapor for this, didn't we? So let's get that exporting into there. I can then speed that up with the acceleration cards. So that's doing its thing. Now we need the water vapor on the other side, so let's grab that one, and just do that like that. And acceleration cards again. So that is now producing sulfuric acid. Let's power that as well. Then if we put the energy upgrades and the speed upgrades into here, they should go crazy. So that is now making sulfuric acid. And oh no, I need a tank there, don't I? That's why that didn't have enough. Okay, so let's get rid of that. Then we have an empty tank there. So if we just make sure that input on that side, and then we'll have the output on the back, and then stick the import bus there. Speed that up. Sulfuric acid is now going right down. So what's going on there? Yeah, so because the sulfur dioxide is running low, this can't keep up, so the sulfur trioxide is running low, which means this will go really slow as well. Although, no, maybe that's just not exported. Have I not put the acceleration cards? I have. Right, so that one done. So that is the sulfuric acid coming in now. So with this one, we need to put it into a chemical dissolution chamber along with the fluorite, which we are getting from sieving, so we don't need to worry about producing this. And then that'll give us the hydrofluoric acid to the uranium hexafluoride, and then we're very, very close, because then that is the fissile fuel. So was that 2 steps, I think? Apart from increasing the production of this one, I've only got 2 more machines to set up, so that is very, very good. Right, so I'll get the other 2 set up, because it's basically just more of the same, and then we can look at the final result. Right, so we've got these 2 machines going now. So we've got the chemical dissolution chamber, and this is taking the sulfuric acid and the fluorite, and that is turning it into the hydrofluoric acid. And then that one is exported into here with the uranium oxide, and that is producing the last complicated step, and that's the uranium hexafluoride. And then all we need to do with this is what I've done over here, and send it into the isotopic centrifuge, and that is now producing fissile fuel. So that's it. The final thing, that's done. So this is what we need to get the fission reactor up and running, and that is going into here. So final thing I need to do is just grab an import bus, and if we stick that onto there, that'll start importing into the system. And what have I broken? Oh, have I used too many channels there? Right, let's see if we can grab another 8 off here. Run that along this way. Do something like that. Okay, so that looks like it's up and running now. So yeah, there we go. We now have the fissile fuel coming into there. So if I just grab some acceleration cards. Actually, I think I've already got some on me. Put those into there. Now, do I need to upgrade this? I do, do I? So stick those in there. And those. That should do that a little bit faster. So yeah, I'm going to need some of those in there. So that is the fissile fuel going up, and that is getting imported into there. Nice. Very pleased about that. And that is going up quite fast. So we can see from here, this is why I did it on a separate network, that some things are going up, some things are staying pretty much stable, which is good. But then we've got these things at the end that are flashing on and off. This means it's not going real well, so we're running out of this. So as I thought, it'd be the sulfur dioxide, which in turn means sulfur trioxide can't keep up. But despite that, everything else does seem to be going up. So I think there's a couple of things that will run out, because I do have a bit of a buffer. So I need to get the rest of that sulfur dioxide thing going. So yeah, getting all this hooked up, moving this back, and then we can start using the crazy amount of sulfur dust that we've got coming out of here. So some of these I did upgrade with the flux linkage amplifiers, the crazy ones. So I think I did 10 of those, because I did 30 of those, didn't I? I was going to put 1 in each, but I thought it'd just be easier to do the 3 at a time, and then I can get the rest of these done. So I need to craft another 60 of those, which, yeah, we'll get to that. But first things first, I need to get this up and running. So I'll do that now, and then we can see if everything can actually keep up. And there it is. We now have a completed room. We've got all this decorated, ceiling in, all the walls in, and very happy with how this is looking. But the main thing I did is got this sorted. So we now have 40 of these chemical oxidizers, and this still isn't enough. It's not keeping up with everything we need out here. But if we have a look at this, most of these are keeping up. Obviously this one wasn't, so I've added in another 3 chemical oxidizers to process the yellow cake uranium, and again that is still not enough, so I may need to upgrade that. But if we have a look around here, the sulfur dioxide is coming in a bit, so we are definitely producing. And the sulfur trioxide, despite that looking like it's not keeping up, this actually is doing alright in here. Then the sulfuric acid, that's doing alright as well. And then the last bit, the hydrofluoric acid, it's just the uranium oxide that isn't keeping up. So I have upgraded that just now, so we'll see how that goes. But the fissile fuel is actually doing alright. We have, what, 15,000 in there. So I think the rate I'm producing this, it's probably going to be enough for what I need to do. Once we get into the antimatter, might need to upgrade it a little bit. But to do the polonium and the plutonium, we should be alright. So very happy with how this has gone. And aside from a few upgrades, I think that is a pretty decent system. And it definitely looks better than doing it with the quantum entangle porters. Definitely. So AE2, definitely the way to go. And I think I've hardly used anything in here as well. I'm only going on to 2 cells here. So we have 7 spare chemical storage cells. So even if these do back up quite a lot and I get tons of certain stuff, doesn't matter. I've got loads of room. So very happy I chose to do it this way. But with that, I think I'm going to leave it there. Obviously next time we're going to get into the fission reactor and get that fissile fuel used up. But definitely very productive today getting all the fissile fuel sorted. So if you have enjoyed this episode, please do leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more. And I'll see you again next time. Thanks for watching everyone. Bye bye.